Hey, this is Paul, and I'm here with PACO today, and we're going to try out some desert weed. And tell us a little bit about the history of this plant, PACO.
Desert weed is a seedling I grew from Desert King fruit that came into Huntington Beach in 2017. I was lucky enough to come across it. Then later I saved seeds because I realized I'd never be able to get cuttings probably. And just thought I'd experiment. And out of the different ones I have, this is the one that actually started developing later than the other ones, meaning I didn't have fruit on them until a year after the other ones. And then lo and behold, the fruit are bigger than the other ones. The plant is a little healthier. And since people
huge.
recently who saw posts I made are requesting cuttings, I thought people have to know like more about the fruit so they can decide whether they actually want to grow this. So I figured what a great way to, get some opinions is to have Paul try it and then later visit some other people down the road in a bit today. While I have all this fruit I can share.
Yeah, and it's off season, so these are winter, we would call these winter fruit, right?
Yeah, you got some thorns on your finger there.
Yeah, life happens.
But
I felt it. Yeah, I guess that's a drawback about some of these is that they do get thorns, but you just brush them off, right, when they're ripe.
yeah, so one thing about seeing like dragon fruit online in the group is people constantly think, or it's typical for people to think, look, like that must be the best one. I've got to have that one. And since people are buying it, I don't have the time to tell everyone who I talk to, like, these are the drawbacks or these are the positives.
Mm-hmm.
The photos are obviously like positives. So I'm hoping that today I could share a little bit about what people should know if they're going to grow something like this. It's an off-season fruit, like some other Desert King seedlings that are off-season fruit.
Well, what are some other positives besides the size? I mean, here's a Diego's Desert King, which is consistently smaller, at least in my experience, than these. So I see a larger size, a different shape. They're very elongated. It's going to be probably a similar color flesh, I would assume. A magenta inside, dark magenta?
It's actually a red color.
Red color. Okay, so it's more red than magenta.
Where other related seedlings are magenta, like a bright, vibrant color, these are like red, like the polyrhizis style red.
Okay, and you call it desert weed because it grows like a weed in your yard, right? You don't even fertilize it, you said?
Yeah, I was gonna call it weed whacker before because a family member hacked my first fruit with a weed whacker because they couldn't see it. And then later, I figured if I can connect it to Desert King, people who don't get a chance to talk to me or see a video could relate it to Desert King. So I called it desert weed after Desert King.
Yeah, I like the name, and it grows like a weed. It seems like the plant's material is very vigorous from what I've seen.
So as far as positives, it grows well.
Mm-hmm.
That's a positive. Anybody who gets a lot of cold will see some damage on any plant they have. So this one can take some damage, but overall, it does better than all the other Desert King seedlings I have.
So, and you grow several, right?
I've got several of those.
And this one, in your opinion, grows the best out of the seeds?
It grows the best out of the others.
Okay. And it's not too thorny. I mean, it's very similar. And these thorns on these hybrids, these Desert King seedlings, are actually spinier than you think. Like, I'll get stabbed by them, and they're a lot more stout. So I did notice that's a unique trait about these. What is the negatives you were thinking about, some of the traits for this plant?
I would say some of the negatives is this one being self-sterile. If you haven't had the experience of how to save pollen, you can get a lot of flowers, which this one does get plenty of flowers, but then if you can't set fruit because something happened to your pollen, it was damaged in the freezer, you won't get the fruit. You'll be sad all winter wondering what did I do wrong?
Uh-huh.
And it could be maybe not knowing how to save pollen properly.
Or having a late season bloom. Maybe some sugar dragon might be able to bloom later in the season like that, so you could have some fresh pollen.
Yeah.
But you'd have to have different varieties. You couldn't just grow this alone.
I'm lucky to have one variety that does flower late.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take as long as this one to develop. It's Edgar, not Edgar's baby. And that pollen alone will set fruit on this.
Okay.
Other things that have set fruit, some random ones from the neighborhood where I see flowers growing over backyards, I'll harvest that pollen for these flowers. And what's one? Oh, I have another related Desert King seedling where I just use its pollen on these flowers and it set fruit.
And it sets fruit, okay.
So it has that as a positive.
That's a good thing.
It's not so picky.
Yeah, some varieties can be really picky about their cross-pollination sources, right?
Right.
But these are all consistently the same size, right? I mean, I don't see any small, you don't really see this on the desert wheat, a smaller fruit. Or are they? Am I right? Or are they?
That's like the outlier. They're rare. It's rare to see
It's
them that
rare to
small.
see it. So they're almost always this longer, larger size. They're about what, a pound?
Yes, the one you're holding now is a pound, and this one's bigger than that one. So I think they're all in the 1 pound range, give or take. I left 3 on the vine, and 2 of those are smaller than all of these, just a little bit less spear-shaped and bulky. So they were greener, so I didn't pick those and bring all of them.
And they start to get a really nice darker color there. It's really pretty. So have you ever left them on the vine long enough to be solid? Solid red?
I did last season, and that's when I had my best experience with this particular variety, where it had the flavors I liked in the other seedlings, meaning the acidity. I wouldn't have expected that leaving it on longer would still have acidity based on what Ramiro Lobo had taught, that, you know, you pick earlier to keep that acidity. If you wait too long, you get the sweetness and
Just
you
too
lose
much
the acidity.
sweetness. So it was still balanced.
But this one still had some balance in it.
And they are on the vine at least half a year?
Half a year.
Okay. So about 180 days, 200 days, something like
from
that?
flower opening, you can bank on half a year here in Southern California.
Okay. And do you think that they'll be able to have a shorter harvest time in the tropics?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
any go dormant.
Any heat plus plenty of sun will help the plants not to go so dormant. I think I have the side of the house where these are growing casts a shadow plus an avocado tree, so I don't know what's optimal yet for these.
So they get a part sun. The mother plant gets a part sun environment.
It gets part sun environment.
Okay. Well, let's cut one open. I want to try. Unless you have more background, so I'm getting excited.
We start with this one that.
All right. How do you like to cut your fruit? This way, or I like to do them this way? Do you care?
Like you do.
All right. Oh wow, that's beautiful. The
Now,
seeds
I have
are a
never
little bit
seen
bigger.
This magenta.
Oh really? So
They're
this is
usually
more
a dark
magenta.
red.
Well, what do you think the difference is? A pollen source, or just the temperature, the climate?
I have no clue. This year I wasn't so careful with documenting what I put on each particular flower. But I'm
that's
excited
pretty.
to see that.
Okay. So do you want to cut them, or should I bricks it first? Let's do that.
Yeah, do the bricks.
All right. Man, I'm excited. Look at how long that color is, just really pretty. So traditionally it's a redder fruit, you said.
Yeah, let's just grab a random one like this one and see if it's
Too bright.
redder.
Okay.
Napkin. Can I get one of your napkins?
Of course.
Perfect. That's actually good. So you can do that as you're bricksing. Let's see. I'll cut this one up down the middle. Oh, actually, it has thorns. So if you don't like thorns, the plus side is they come off quite easy. The downside is, you can prick yourself. You just saw Paul stick himself a few times, and he didn't
Yeah,
make too big
barely
of a fuss,
feel it.
but he's on video.
17 and 7/10. So definitely a nice level. I'm sure that they'll get sweeter.
Let's see. I didn't want any seeds. Thorns to end up on this thing. This one's a little redder,
Yeah, it does look redder.
and it could be that I'm indoors and my camera looks redder.
Yeah, we're in the full sun right now. But man, what a pretty color. All right, I'm ready to try some. So I'm going to cut them up here. So Scott, you can try some.
Now this one acts like Colombiana, where you get the diuretic effect, so you do have to be careful. Like I'm gonna eat some more of these later.
So it will clean you out.
If you don't see me eating too much now, it's because I know I'm gonna be sampling some later.
You gotta pace yourself.
And I don't see any of the seeds have sprouted inside, which can happen sometimes on these fruit that have been on the vine for that long. Wow. I like it a lot. And this one was in the fridge, correct, for a while? Is this the one?
For a couple weeks since I posted that first one that I cut.
Wait, this fruit's been in the fridge for a few weeks?
Actually, it was out of
Wow.
the fridge for a week and a half. I just left it in the back room where it's kind of chilly. Then I noticed one of the sides was getting a little soft, so I thought I need to put you in the fridge.
Oh my gosh. This is great for being out off of the plant for so long.
The seed's got a hint of spice.
It does. It's not earthy. It's slightly more acidic than sweet, I'm getting, but in a very enjoyable way.
Yeah, I like it.
It reminds me of what I would, like if I imagine mixing a yellow Pelora with some American Beauty or a Guatemalensis. That's kind of the profiles I detect, the
Okay.
tasting, which are both varieties I really like.
This is that second one. I'm just going to sample one now while you're,
Really
while you're
juicy.
sampling there. Feel free to hop
I'd
in
like
on.
to try one of these. Definitely a little darker, especially as the sun. We have some clouds now, and the flesh looks darker. So it is possibly the lighting.
This one's gonna be just a tad firmer. Just a slight tad more
Wow.
acidic, but in that same flavor range.
That is so good.
I really like this a lot. I can see why you want to share the desert weed.
What I'm hoping for is that, like, try as many fruit as possible so that I can give people information about, you know, what might cause flavors to not be so good and which ones, you know, you can bank on being worth sharing with family because, you know, we want people who know that our hobbies take so much of our time and it's because of this. Here, try this fruit. We want them to go like, dude, that's pretty cool that you do that.
Yeah, especially this time of year when, I mean, it's hard to get good fruit, especially in Southern California. This is a wonderful off-season fruit. I really, really like it. I actually prefer this one more than Diego's Desert King personally, just because Diego's Desert King is a bit more sweet, at least in my experience,
Interesting.
and it doesn't have as much of the acidity.
And I'm willing to bet for anyone who has Diego's that if you start experimenting with harvest time, you could find an optimal time where there's going to be times that it could be better than this one. And I'm reminded of Ramiro when he's always asked, like, what's your favorite variety? He would tell people that the presentations, well, this year it's this one. And that would confuse us. Like, what do you mean? Well, last year it was Armando. And this year it's Physical Graffiti. Like, some varieties outperform in one year, and then they have down years.
Yeah, and
Not
do you
knowing
think
that-
that's like a plant factor or a weather factor, or we're not sure?
A number of things that Ramiro wasn't able to fully, like, explain because they had a regimen of fertilizing things that was kind of consistent because they're doing research. So it taught us to be, like, patient with the plants that we have in case we don't like something one year. Maybe it's just an off year. So
Oh man, what I like about it, it's really juicy. It's smooth. I get it's not grainy at all. Like it's really, really good. Wow.
last year's ones were a darker red, and the ones I left on, I noticed they were not as firm as this one. So I'm happy to find that these have the firmness,
Yeah, because sometimes it'd be a little mushy.
like a mushier fruit, right? I
Yeah, I
prefer-
don't like that either. I prefer it like this. It's really firm.
How many days from the pollen set did you?
September
That's it.
28th are the photos of some of these right here. Was when the flower opened.
Okay.
And I pollinated.
And it's what, April 5th today? 6th, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like 6 months.
Wow.
The flowering portion doesn't take as long. That's kind of like standard. The bud appears, and maybe 30, 35 days later or less, you see the flower open. So that's not a long waiting time. But the rest, you just have to be patient. There's no other way around that.
Yeah, you got to be patient. How do you compare this one to the other seedlings you're evaluating, the sisters?
I like the acidity in the other ones that I'm finally starting to taste more of in this one compared to last year. So I like those other ones more because they have more of the acidity pop
Okay.
mixed with the sweetness. They're higher bricks. Like that first one we tried, you could tell the flavors weren't too strong sugar-wise. And there was acidity mixed into it, so that helped the flavor.
So some of them will bricks in the 20s. I mean, anything above personally like 15, 16, I usually find a lot of enjoyable fruit anywhere. And then at the other end, once it hits the mid 20s, it's kind of too sweet, at least personally. So I think this is right in the nice range and a really well balanced. I also am noticing it's got a unique kind of like the little spots. You don't see that in some, at least I've never seen that.
Like texture?
Like marbling kind of, like it's just different colors of red. It's really pretty. And so Desert King is a Columbiana crossed with a Polyrhizis, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where it gets the unique, and this is a much larger fruit than a Columbiana. So,
Which was what Israel was after. And there we have it. I'm lucky that the plant does as well because a lot of people do like these fruit. Like, I've never tried a Diego's. Curious what that tastes like.
we'll have to
Whatever.
try it. We'll compare them. Let's try them together.
My gut tells me it's better than this one. Just
Really?
instinctively, yeah. Because I'm seeing it, looking at it like as if it was one of my own. And even though they're not that big, they're just like Jolly Ranchers almost.
They can be. Yeah, I really liked it last season when we had a fruit about a year ago. I mean, they tend to be on the vine for 6 months, but to me, I like the texture. I really like this fruit, so we'll have to try them side by side. Maybe we'll do that today. So is there anything else you want to share about the desert weed that we missed?
No, just be mindful that it takes like a lot of hard work. People who know that we have this hobby know that we're out at night doing all this work. So you got to be willing to save pollen, and then I don't know, just be patient.
So be patient with the plant, and then expect that it's not going to flower till the end of the season in Southern California.
Right.
The later time of year.
So start planning in advance for who are your friends in your area that can help you with pollen. The fresher the pollen, the better.
And do you ever use frozen pollen on this, or do you keep it in the refrigerator?
I have, but I've mostly been able to rely on Edgar pollen because it's available.
And it's fresh.
Yeah, but one thing I noticed, this is something you can try out. I've had Edgar flowers that closed. I didn't harvest pollen from them because I knew others were coming on the way for new flowers of these. And so I dip into that old pollen from the day before. And on one occasion, it was 2-day-old pollen, but the flower had already closed, and it still set fruit.
Oh, so you were able to collect pollen after the flower had already bloomed and was closing up, and it still worked. I've never tried that. Okay, that's a good idea.
And I remember hearing Gray Martin, mentioning, the importance of keeping your bag tight if you're testing something, because 2 and 3 days later, pollen could still cross-contaminate something, or whatever it is. This pollen could last longer than we know.
A lot longer than we think.
It's just that moisture is an enemy to this stuff. So if you're storing it in the freezer and you think you stored it right, you could have done the best you wanted to, but it only takes a little moisture to damage it.
It could even just be a really humid day when you collect the moisture, the pollen. Okay, so that's you just got to be you got to plan ahead with this variety.
Plan ahead and be patient, and hopefully you get this kind of fruit.
Well, this has been a very enjoyable experience, so thank you for coming down and bringing them and letting us try it today. And I look forward to growing desert weed. I really like this fruit. It was really balanced in my opinion, and for me to compare it to a Pelora and an American Beauty, those are probably some of my favorite to eat. And to me, it just feels like those are mashed together in this fruit.
Pick one to keep here when I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. So we appreciate it. Give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll keep them coming. Have a good day.